This is The Digital Key, Season 2, Chapter 9. In this episode, we will be discussing how sublimation and the infinite recursion that follows usually occurs within a dream state. If you imagine that the tautological and hierarchical flow of consciousness are like a stream, which fills up each vessel before spilling to the next, then the force pulling that fluid down is love. The golden rule, which posits the substitution of a neighbor for oneself, represents the logic of reverse substitution events. But hierarchical compulsion represents the result of a superior's foreknowledge of a path of negation within infinite recursion. Infinite recursion represents a manifold number of paths stemming from the initial negation. If you recall, all of these paths, or rather, the emotive experience of these paths is incorporated into the transient feelings which follow the negation. This means, for example, that within these paths all of the experiences which followed negation happened, but their history is eliminated and only their emotive experience is preserved in the transitory feelings which follow the moment. Thus, every emotion is expressed to its fullest within the paths of infinite recursion. But each path of infinite recursion represents a distinct analog structure, wherein a superior affirms one impulse for another and negates the other. Thus, each path is founded upon a hierarchical relationship between that subject and some other, revealed by their involvement in the path of negation. So, in hierarchical compulsion, we see foreknowledge of a path being available to the embedded subject, who acts according to that outcome upon the sublimator. When that path of negation flows into infinite recursion, it can be said that the subject entangled in that path sees no benefit to either to compel acquiescence. But when hierarchical compulsion results, terminating infinite recursion, that foreknowledge reveals a path which is deleterious to both subject and sublimator. But we see that sublimation elongates phase of an affirmational rhythm. It negates the phase flip which may be subject to hierarchical compulsion. Thus, sublimation elongates the wakefulness stage of the sleep cycle, dislodging that process from what would ordinarily occur in dreams. What distinguishes the dream state from wakefulness? As we have concluded, within nonlinearity there are myriad paths which follow from negation. There are also 9 paths of affirmation which follow from each intersection. What we call the dream state is merely our perception of the manifold paths our vessel travels without our knowledge. From this we can see that sublimation, which extends into infinite recursion, is fundamentally a dream process. The shifting of consensus, which follows from full infinite recursion, is a process which would ordinarily take place in a dream state, divorced from our linear objects and experience. From this we can see that sublimation in wakefulness reveals a reality that has more in common with dreams than with the linear reality which preceded it. What is the character of that state? Sublimation leading to infinite recursion doesn't just process a negated impulse for the subject, it strips away the pre-programmed responses to that impulse by the rest of the system. As the paths of infinite recursion extend outward, they entangle all other subjects in their wake. The shifting of consensus, which results, is a reshuffling of the bare impulses of all other subjects exposed by that sublimation. This process more appropriately belongs in the dream state, where the mind of the subject reigns over its objects. Sublimation reveals a doorway to a waking dream state, a process which facilitates the unconscious mind of the subject into the tangible objects of its creation. In effect, sublimation leading to infinite recursion entangles the world in a dream process writ large on the system as a whole. That's the end of the podcast for today.